Hello and welcome to a soaking wet Rowra in Cumbria for the 2013 British Open Karting Championships. The Lakeland Stadium is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and earlier on my co-commentator Alan Taddiai went and found somebody who knows a little bit about its history.
Dave, 50 years of karting here at Rowra. How many of those 50 years have you been involved?
Well, I was involved from the start at Rowra in May 1963.
So 1963 for you, but you started karting in the area, I think, 1961?
Yeah, people like Hartley Timmins and Terry Edgar, they started back in 1961 when the karts were at Haverig, near the prison on the Haverig airfield. Yeah,
okay, yeah, we were looking at Terry's kart earlier. We're going to compare that to his grandson Johnny's kart in just a little while. Karts have changed massively, haven't they?
Yeah, well, certainly from that point of view, that was powered by, I think, a 2.5 horsepower engine and carrying 14 stone drivers around. So now, of course, they are much quicker and not really any dearer. They are about the same, well, in fact, I would say probably cheaper in relation to the present to wages.
Yeah, I think Terry's kart was £25 at the time, including the engine.
But originally it was £60, and it was only when they became they weren't competitive with other makes that they suddenly stopped making them, and they had I think 500 models to get shot of. So they reduced the price to £25, and that's when a lot of Cumbrians got started. They snapped up a bargain, and that was it. And Idle Edgar knew that the quarry here was for sale, and he persuaded the committee to come up and have a look, and they bought the quarry for £350. I think it cost £4,000 to lay the circuit.
I think it would cost a lot more than that. Somebody came along to try and buy the circuit these days. But how has this circuit changed? We've got a picture here behind us. It's changed over the years, hasn't it? I think the pitch used to be in this area, was it?
Yes, the pits were on this little strip here, and stretching back a little, just about to here. The reason you could get so many karts in such a small space, of course, was because people came with them on the roof racks of the cars, or even in the boot of the car. We didn't have the big vans and the big transporters that you have now. The circuit itself was 530 yards long, and it came round this corner here. And then in 1974 we extended it to 600 metres to this point here. And in 1998 we added all this, which makes it 1,010 metres now.
Of course, we're at the O-Plate meeting this weekend here at Rowra. That was the British Championship event. It's now a series, isn't it? The Super 1 series over 6 rounds. But back in the day, the British Championship was just one weekend event, wasn't it?
Absolutely, one weekend, yeah. I mean, when I raced, I've seen us go down on a Saturday night to Rye House with the kart in the boot to do a British Championship on the Sunday. So now we turn up on a Thursday and we test Friday and Saturday and race Sunday, so things have changed quite a lot.
Much more professional, would you say, now?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of things have in other sports too, and karting's followed the same route, and we're in a fusion team, which is I think probably the best that it possibly could be. Very, very good guys, keen, and obviously we wouldn't be in it if we didn't believe in them.
So there are 7 O-Plate races in the British Open, but this one is the Honda Cadet support race. Rory Hudson and Chris Lullen will take the front row of the grid, with Miles Apps and Connor Grady on row 2. Keeping out for some of the fast movers through the grid, Tom Canning starts 7th on the grid, and Danny Harrison, one to watch through the Super 1 season, starting from 16th on the grid in the 18 kart. Well, as you can see, the wet weather conditions really played havoc at the start of this one, but side by side through the first couple of corners, Hudson and Lullen swapping positions early on, and Miles Apps in the 11 getting ready to pounce as they head through the first couple of corners. And he makes a perfect move on the inside, only to lose the place straight away to Lullen through the first left-handed hairpin. But the battle for the top 3 was always going to be intense right from the off.
Classic switchback move in the McRae's hairpin there, Jake, as Miles Apps went up the inside, and Chris Lullen got him on the switchback coming out of the hairpin. miserable conditions today at the moment. It is very wet indeed, and we've got the leader Rory Hudson well out front. He's got 5 or 6 kart lengths here as Miles Apps looks up the inside, makes a nice move through the right-hander there at St John's. Left-hander here is Sonny Ben, but Chris Lallam comes back side by side, and Miles manages rather to hold on through paddock. It is Rory Hudson as they go across the start-finish line. Warning flag coming out for somebody, not sure who that is.
Yeah, it's always going to be more difficult for the drivers to keep themselves under wraps in the tough conditions, but through the first couple of laps, it's very much looking like one-way traffic for Rory Hudson as he goes through McRae's, with Miles Apps not too far behind, but he's taking things nicely in his stride in the wet conditions. A lot of drivers tend to favour the wet because it shows exactly what they can do in terms of their skill base, but this was just about the moment where Miles Apps was about to rewrite the form book, really starting to make a challenge as they went up to the Stewart S's. But it's very difficult to place your kart on the correct racing line because when the circuit is this saturated, there really isn't one. You've just got to pick the best line and hope for the best.
Yeah, karting lines, as we've heard in Formula One commentary time and time again, the karting line is in the outside of the corner. Anytime you've got wet conditions, anywhere the rubber is or has been laid down on the racing line, very, very slippery indeed. Later in the race, these two have got away. They're well clear. Miles Apps has put in the fastest lap, 1:03.04, as we see the rest of the kart stream through the start-finish line.
A very impressive lap time considering the conditions. It must be so difficult just to judge exactly how you're going to make the moves. We've got a very fired up 55 Riley Banks here, trying to make his move on the 48 of Lloyd on the inside of McRae's. Beautifully done. It's very difficult to make a move like that stick in these conditions because there's always the risk that you're going to overshoot. Lloyd's trying to come back at him, but later on into the race, and we can see Miles Apps has not only caught Rory Hudson, but made the move to get through. Now, what can Hudson do to respond? He charges down on the inside. Is he going to get through? No, he just couldn't quite find the line. And that was so close between the two of them, they almost round each other off the race circuit in their battle for victory. But as the race develops, you can see that Miles Apps is able to pull out a nice gap over the number 5 of Rory Hudson and take a convincing victory in appalling weather conditions. He was pretty happy about it, as he was able to tell Alan Tadei a little while afterwards.
We got a good start from third. We got into second on round about the second lap, and then we caught Rory. We had a really good battle as well.
Yeah, it was a tight battle with him, wasn't it, all the way through, really?
Yeah. We finally got past after the good battle and eased away to take the win.
So here's the first of the O-Plate finals. It's TKM Extreme, and Dan Butcher-Lord and Carl Sproat fill the front row, with Stronach and Lawrence on row 2. Forsdyke and Wallace are there on row 3, and away we go, straight down to the first corner, the chicane, and already a couple of drivers have been spat out onto the grass. I think that's the front row round, Carl Sproat, who's been caught out there. Goodness me, there's a lot of jostling in the back of the pack as these slippery conditions are really starting to tell for the drivers. I think that was the 43 there of Douglas Hayford getting caught up in the grass there towards the back, and we've got a very nice battle towards the front there. Is that the 46 of Forsdyke? It is. He's come through to the lead already. Absolutely amazing, and they're too wide on the exit of the hairpin at Iredale's as well. Goodness me, the back end kicking out as Forsdyke slams on the brakes and kicks the back end to the right, really desperately trying to hold on to the kart through the first couple of corners, and the rain absolutely appalling at this stage of the race, but Forsdyke has got himself a nice advantage with Stronach in the 11 there in second place, and it looks like he's about to lose that position as we go back to the leaders. We may well see a new man in second place, but the rest of the field still jostling for position. No, he's hung on to it just as I say it. 25, Dan Butcher-Lord moves back up into second position as he makes the move on Stronach in the 11. Oh, and that's Ogden getting through as well. Goodness me, Stronach really struggling as he drops down from second to fourth, and now he's got the 50 of Rob Wallace on his tail, Alan. He's really struggling.
Yeah, down to McRae's one more time. The leader, Forsdyke, has checked out here. He's got a good 25-30 kart length lead over the pole man, Dan Butcher-Lord in second place. He's at the 8 kart in third, looks like it. That's James Ogden there in third, who started in 7th on the grid, so had quite a change since the start of the race, down to the Stewart S's one more time.
And these conditions, you can see when the camera changes direction, it's absolutely appalling, the rain now, really falling heavy. Not that it's putting Joe Forsdyke off the challenge. Look at him, he's streaking away at the front of the field. Oh, a bit of opposite lock there for Butcher-Lord. That very nearly cost him second place. And as we can see, Ogden in the number 8, swarming all over the back of him, trying to crawl all over the back of that kart now. Trying to make a move on the inside, and Butcher Lord runs wide again. Ogden trying to get him on the undercut, he just can't get through. And they're squabbling all over the place.
All this squabbling is helping out the leader. If Joe Forsdyke could look behind and see them squabbling like they are, he'd be laughing his socks off, because it's helping him to get further and further out front as we've got a change for second place. And the 25 kart, Daniel Butcher Lord, runs wide and drops down, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 places out of the hairpin at the bottom of the circuit. McRae's through Ardales one more time, but Butcher Lord's race is effectively over.
Yes, indeed. So we saw Wallace getting past Stronach, and as you say, Butcher Lord dropping down to 6th position. So Ogden is now up to 2nd place. Forsdyke is gone. He's just cleared off. Fantastic stuff. Ogden is there in 2nd. Wallace now 3rd. Stronach is 4th. The number 9 has come up. Paul Monks from the back of the grid. He started 11th of the 12 cars. Oh, he's lost it! Unbelievable! He's lost it! Oh, goodness me! Just complete pirouette through the corner. That was a disaster. He lost it completely at Sunny Bend. And as you can see, he's trying to get the car back onto the circuit in last place. What a disastrous moment for him. He really lost it in the biggest possible way.
It's a shame for Paul. This is one of Paul's favourite circuits. Been racing here for years and years. Paul Monks knows this circuit like the back of his hand. But that was a pretty elementary error for somebody of Paul Monks' experience.
He can't really help it, I suppose. It really was the biggest puddle in the entirety of Roa he found through there. And unfortunately, when you get crossed up and you're just aquaplaning off the circuit, there's nothing you can do about it in those circumstances. So, an interesting scenario then as Monks tries to make his way back a little further on into the race. And oh, too much curb! Ogden loses it from 2nd place. That is an absolute barnstorming mistake there from Ogden. That's ruined his entire afternoon's work. Goodness me, now Wallace is under pressure from Dan Butcher Lord, trying to make his way on the tail there. He almost went straight into the back of him. Heading into the last lap then, and Joe Forsdyke miles ahead, even has time to wave before the finish. That move from Dan Butcher Lord earlier comes to no avail. He retires from the race as Forsdyke takes a dominant victory ahead of Rob Wallace, and a brilliant drive from Brendan Spate in 3rd position. Alan caught up with the winner.
Joe, congratulations, your first British Open title.
Yeah, it was a really good race. Surprised myself actually. We've struggled with the setup a bit this week, but we knew from practice this morning that we was really quick in the wet, and it was just a case of getting the call right. Just before we went out, it looked dark coming over. We got the call right, made a really good start. Just kept going up the inside into the hairpins, and I looked behind and there was just no one behind, so I just kept my head down and drove.
That's it for part 1. Join us in part 2 for an epic Coma Cadet race.